Hi. Before going to video, please subscribe to my channel for more interesting stuff.
Story from r/creepy encounters. Posted by u/sinister scroller. Near miss at McDonald's. My first job was at McDonald's. This building was attached to a gas station and located off of a busy highway. I was 14, all kinds of bad luck at this age, and started a 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift. This early, the store was usually empty, so only 3 people, myself included, were in the restaurant: the manager, who was in the back, the cook, who was also in the back, and I, the cashier, who was up front. I was wiping down the counter when a man who looked to be in his mid-30s or early 40s came in. He did not order anything, but went straight to the restrooms, which were in the restaurant area just around the corner from my cash. Many truckers and travelers would come in to simply use the washrooms and leave, so this was not an uncommon occurrence. I didn't think much of it. But after the man finished, he came up to the counter and said, "Excuse me, I was just in the washroom and one of the toilets is overflowing." I immediately came around the counter and let him lead me towards the restroom. Suddenly, I got a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach and stopped dead in my tracks. I became very aware that no one was in the restaurant area, and the only other 2 people in the store were in the back and would not be able to hear me if I went into the restroom. The man had the restroom door open and realized I had paused. He nonchalantly said, "Come on in, I'll show you," which came off innocently enough, but it didn't sit well with me. I smiled and said, "One moment, I'll get my manager," and I started making my way back to the counter. "It will only take a minute," he called out. I met my manager in the back and explained to him that a man was complaining about an overflowing toilet. My manager went to check it out and I followed closely behind him. When we turned the corner, the man was gone and we entered the restroom. No toilet was overflowing. We exchanged a look and never brought it up again. To this day, I feel like some divine intervention gave me the wisdom to know not to follow the man into the restroom. The whole situation only lasted a few seconds, but it felt like forever. I was young and trusting, and this man could have done God knows what and I wouldn't have been hurt. He could have left, got away with whatever it was he had planned, and hit the highway. I never did see him again. Story from r/creepy encounters. Posted by u/asking for my brain. I was almost taken. I may have been 8 to 9 years old. I lived in a nice little middle-class neighborhood. One of my best friends, Raven, lived across the street diagonally, one house down, so I often spent evenings at her home after school. Raven's mom would always call my mom to let her know I was leaving and to expect me in the next minute or so. This way mom knew to unlock our front door. Often she stood and watched from the screen door to make sure I got across okay. I had begun noticing the speed-up red car, possibly an old VW or Buick, that would pass by almost every night as I ran back across the street. I would always head home just after dark, so possibly around 8:30 anytime I was leaving Raven's house. It was always rolling super slow, speed limit was 25 miles per hour, and I want to say this vehicle always passed it maybe half that. One night as I was leaving, perhaps a bit later than usual, I stepped out of the side door of Raven's house just as the car was about to pass the house completely. It stopped in the road and backed up as I approached the side of the road. The window rolled down just as the car stopped in front of me. A little woman with short reddish-brown hair and blue frame glasses was smiling sweetly at me. "Hi, sweetheart. It's a little late for you to be out right now, isn't it?" she asked me. Her voice was low and pleasant. "No, Mom lets me. I'm just walking home," I replied stupidly. "Oh gosh, how silly of your mom. There's all kinds of bad people out late at night. Where do you live, sugar? I'll give you a ride." Just then, my mom came bursting out of our front door and screamed, "Leave her alone," as she began running to me. The woman's pleasant demeanor dropped and I heard her mutter a word, possibly fuck, as she slammed her foot on the gas and took off at well over the speed limit. She didn't stop at the nearby stop sign, just blasted through it to make her escape. I got a nice lecture that night, but also a lot of tight hugs. My mom was super glad that she chose to look out the storm door to check on me instead of just letting me wander home. I could have been taken, and she told me as much. I cannot remember if the police were called, but I never interacted with any officers. This doesn't end here, though. Like most little kids, I really liked setting up lemonade stands. Unlike most little kids, I also enjoyed hand making and baking cakes and brownies and cookies, and also selling those at my lemonade stands. About 2 weeks after the prior incident, a beautiful sunny Saturday, Mom helped me with the baking and helped me make lemonade and set me up in the front yard with my sign. She had been paranoid ever since the prior incident and had hardly let me out of her sight aside from school and the bus, and this was no different. She stayed outside with me all while I sold my little treats to passerby. Until she had to run to the restroom. It would obviously be a pain to take everything down and bring it inside while she went and then to bring it all back out and set it up again. She figured I'd be okay for a few minutes, considering it was the middle of the afternoon and usually predators aren't that stupid. Mom left me alone for several minutes while she went to the bathroom and presumably went to grab a snack as she was gone for 10 or so minutes. A familiar face walked up about 8 minutes in. She appeared from around some bushes down the street. I didn't see her in the distance walking up. I honestly saw her stand up from behind some bushes and brush herself off and begin walking towards me. Her clothes were smart and sophisticated looking, almost like a pantsuit. It was a real clash with how ratty her car had been, but that same placating smile was on her face and her eyes glinted behind the same glasses. Aw, cute, a lemonade stand. Hi again, sweetie. Sorry for bothering you the other night, I didn't realize how close to home you were. Mama told me not to talk to you. Go away. I said it as meanly as I could muster, but Mom had, rightfully, made me so frightened of this woman that I'm sure I just sounded like the scared little girl I was. Come on now, Marie. She spoke my real name, first and last, and my eyes got big. I'm a friend of your parents. I live down the street, remember, we met at the pool this past summer. I had no recollection of her. If you're their friend, why did you leave so quick? Mom. I began shouting for my mother. This made her crouch down in front of my table, eye to eye with me. We don't need to do that. I just want to talk to you. You like to bake, right? I have a really fancy kitchen with a nice baker's oven. All sorts of cool gadgets to make baking cupcakes and stuff like this super fun. No. No, 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 Mama. I stood up and pushed the table into this woman and started running for the front door. This woman kicked the folding table away and started to chase me until my mom appeared in the doorway. She flung the door open and I barreled into her and the woman stopped running and stood in the yard. What are you doing to my daughter? My mom shouted at her. My God, your child is rude. I was just trying to buy a cupcake and she shoved the table into me and ran. Now I have lemonade all over my clothes. The woman lied through her teeth. I don't think she was expecting my mom to come back. That's the lady from that night. In the car. I was now trying to get around my mom and hide behind her. My mom pulled out her cell phone and this time I know she called the police. The woman immediately ran off back the direction she came. The cops appeared, one took statements while the other one patrolled the neighborhood searching for her. They ended up finding her car parked at the grocery store that was up the road about half a mile at the other end of the neighborhood. They waited for her to show up and claim it, she never did. They couldn't find her. I never saw her again, though.
Story from r/creepy encounters. Posted by u/14ms4d. Creepy old man tries to solicit me at work. So to preface, this is my first post. I do apologize if I do this wrong, but this is the perfect place to share this and I want it out of my brain. Also, I know this isn't as bad as some people have had it and I do apologize if it seems like I'm complaining or something. I hope anyone who has had worse, is better now and that your situation has improved. You deserve the world. 2 hearts. So, I'm 20, female, and quite curvy? I have a very small stature for someone with my body build, so I have always gotten comments on my body, stuff I'm used to and generally am able to ignore. However, just because I am generally able to ignore it, does not mean that it doesn't affect me. I work in a very customer-oriented environment, most customers and super sweet and friendly, only asking essential questions and going about their day. We have some customers who are a nightmare and then we have some that make our skin crawl. This man was one of them. So in my store you're expected to drop whatever you're doing, you go assist a customer. I do just that and walk up to an elderly man, I'd say about late 60s, early 70s, he seems sweet enough at first. We exchange hellos, how can I help you, typical customer service talk. Before I can hear what this man needs, he starts asking about my tattoos. That's okay, happens all the time. He then proceeds to look me up and down, again, happens all the time, not okay, but nothing to be alarmed at. He proceeds to ask me if I have a girlfriend. I kind of laugh and say yes, I don't, I just got vibes off the question. He chuckles and asks if I've ever been with an older man. I say no, starting to get uncomfortable. He asks if I'd ever cheat on my imaginary girlfriend. I say no and start to back up a bit. He was closer than I was comfortable with. He again laughs, but this time steps close to me and puts his hand on my shoulder and asks if how long I've been with my girlfriend, and I blurt out a number like 3 years. He then proceeds to say I'll pay you to have you and your girlfriend sleep with me. At this point you can see the visible shock on my face and how uncomfortable I am. The sound of his voice was something of nightmares to me. I should mention I have trauma from my childhood. Men like this, they left a physical and mental scar. I kind of laugh nervously and stutter out a no thank you and try to skirt around his advances because, 1. That is absolutely not appropriate behavior. 2. I'm at work and genuinely don't know how to handle this. If I wasn't at work I probably would have slapped him or cursed him out. I managed to get him back on the topic of what I could help him find in my store, which was curtains and a tablecloth. I told him I could take him to them, but he has asked me to walk in front of him so he could admire me, so I kind of smiled awkwardly and made up a half-assed excuse that I forgot my scanner and would be back to help him. I ran up to the customer service desk nearly in tears because hello uncomfortable? I explained what had happened to the girl at the front and immediately she told me to go hide in the front office while one of our rather large and very sweet male employees went to handle the situation. Since he was older, they didn't feel it was appropriate to kick him out. Instead my coworker helped him find what he needed, much to the protests of the old dirtbag. I hid upstairs for close to an hour because this man refused to leave. He kept trying to talk to other female associates and was even quite rude to one of my managers. Once he finally left, it was like this weight was gone, but I felt dirty. TLDR, creepy old man, makes scary sexual advances, tries to solicit me at work, and refuses to leave after a male associate goes to help him and handle the situation.
Story from r/creepyencounters. Posted by u/almaliluna_15. A guy followed me with his headlights off and tried to get me into his car. So this is my original first post on here. I finally made a Reddit because I think I have some frightening experiences, being as though I grew up in a very bad town. I don't want to mention the name of the city I am from to protect my identity. This happened shortly before I turned 18 and left for college. My father owned a tattoo shop downtown surrounded by bars, and I was usually there helping drunk customers piece together their ideas of what they wanted while the counter assistant was busy helping other customers and actually drawing up their customers' ideas. Well, it was a late night at the shop. Dad decided to stay open late since the bar next door was celebrating some kind of anniversary party or something like that. I went out to have a smoke. Even though I was NKT 18 I blended in well since I had just walked out of a tattoo shop. Well, I'm enjoying the ciggy and scrolling through a couple messages from friends when I hear an odd crackling older man's voice say, "You got an extra on of those?" I looked up expecting it to be one of the guys from the shop just being funny and trying to creep me out. I was wrong. The guy standing in front of me looked like he had just crawled out of an abandoned building's basement. He had no coat on, which was odd because it was maybe about 14 degrees Fahrenheit that evening. I quickly responded, "I am sorry, I don't. I borrowed this from a friend." My cig was not even halfway, but I wanted to put it out and go inside. The guy stood there looking at me. I avoided eye contact, unsure what to do. There were people standing on the corner outside of the bar, but I didn't really want to panic and make a scene. He continued to ask me more personal questions like, "Are you getting ink done?" And what made my skin crawl, "Are you here alone?" "No, I am here with a friend," I said quickly. "I should probably get back inside. You can have this if you want." I handed him the cig and he immediately put it to his mouth and took such a long drag that the cig was almost done. I felt very creeped out and said have a good night and went back inside. I told my friend, we will call her Renee, about the strange guy outside, and she went out with me so I could smoke a full cig. At first it seemed like the guy had left. So I felt relieved and was chatting and having a good time joking with Renee about the guys inside that kept staring at Renee and I. That's when I noticed something on the other side of the street moving in the bushes. "Do you see that?" I said, grabbing Renee's arm and pulling her close so she could see where I was pointing. "Probably just another opossum. Let's get back inside, it's cold." She dragged me inside and as the door shut I could see it was bigger than a opossum, but more like a human. I shook it off and decided I was just tired and still creeped out. It was about 4 a.m. when the shop finally closed and I insisted on walking home since Renee had to drive 45 minutes in the opposite direction. I really enjoyed late night walks, but after Renee pulled away and drove out of AU I felt very uncomfortable being alone, and my phone died earlier so I couldn't call anyone. Why I didn't charge it I will never understand. My house was only about 5 blocks from the shop, so it would only take me 15 minutes to get there, 12 if I walked fast enough. The night was actually pretty scary without music to kill the silence. I only made it about 2 blocks when I noticed a slight clinking sound, that of an old car's engine. I almost froze in my place when I realized someone was behind me with their headlights off. "Just keep going," I told myself. "It's probably some drunk idiot from the bar who forgot to turn on his headlights." I kept going, trying not to seem like I noticed. I wanted to turn around and look so bad, but I was terrified. The person was driving slow enough that they didn't pass me for about another block. Finally the truck turned on their headlights and sped up past me and turned at the next corner. But I noticed the driver. My heart stopped and I froze in my footsteps. It was the same guy from earlier who asked me for the cig. He stared at me. I could see his dark glossy eyes in the darkness of his truck and a few shadows on his face. He looked back at me, making eye contact with a sinister grin. I waited a few seconds, long enough that he would have already turned onto the next street. I walked as fast as I could until I was finally at the corner, 1 block exactly from my house. I could see I was almost there. What happened next will forever be one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. As I was crossing the street, a guy's voice called out from the darkness, "Hey you! Come here." I looked over and was horrified. The man was getting out of his truck and beginning to walk towards me. I started walking backwards towards my house. Still, "I am calling the police." I yelled for some reason even though my phone was dead, and I took off running so fast towards my house. Thinking smart, I didn't go straight to my house. I turned the next corner, made sure he wasn't behind me, and snuck into my neighbor's backyard. I was so scared I began to shake, and even though it was freezing temperatures I was burning up in my heavy jacket. I waited what seemed like a half hour and decided it would be safe to go into my house. I watched out the window of the door that leads straight to the basement. I waited a few minutes in the black hallway and there he was. The man in the truck was driving by really slow with his lights off still. I never seen that man again anywhere around town, but I will always remember the look on his face as he stared me down like I was a fresh cut of meat, and I stopped walking home so late.
Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.